I know. It's one of those things. All right, so we're going to queue up your slides. It may take a moment just for funsies, but come on up here and let's vamp for a moment. All right, so Matt, you are going to give a talk, and yeah, that's you. Yes, and once again, I want to reiterate that one of the authors of the book is right there, our beloved Lewis. Very exciting. The other Austin contributor, is he able to make it tonight? Have you talked to him or?
Just Lewis.
Okay, well, Lewis is in the book, and also Brandon Wiley, who is our beloved friend and frequent presenter. So, big shout out to Brandon as well. We're still talking. All right, if you want to go ahead and hop on and tell the people about the nerd stuff, we'd appreciate it. Here's the clicker in case that becomes relevant.
Which way am I pointing? That way?
Right there.
That way. Great. Right. Amazing. All right. Oh, I'll wing it. I know what I'm doing. All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you. Hey. My name's Matt. I think that's been established. I want to thank all of you for being here. This is my fifth Nerd Night, Austin, I think. It's nice to be here after a while. I think I have not been here since 2016, actually. So it's good to be back. Let's see a little bit of this. So this is a big deal for us. Obviously, you see here at the end of February, our first ever book came out. I'll talk about that in a second. In the last 14 days, 12 days, we've been going across the country sort of celebrating this. Coincidentally, this is, and not coincidentally, the first ever Nerd Night was in February 2003, so this is our 21st birthday this month. It's a big deal. We can finally drink after years of saying that we're supposed to do this. All right, so I want to give you a little context about how we got here today. How many of you think the world is on fire right now? Yeah, everything's terrible. Isn't that great? But I want to flash you back to 2003 and tell you a little bit about things. So this is yeah, it's gonna be slow to react. All right, it's gonna kill the timing. All right, so I'll tell you all. We'll just wing it and see what happens here. All right, so this is 3 weeks into February to January 2023 or 2003. Jesus Christ, can't talk. This is what happened. Remember when Colin Powell sat in front of the UN and just lied to their faces? Not a really good start to the year. And then just a couple weeks after that, that happened right over Texas. That's the before picture, obviously. So yeah, be glad I showed you that one. Then a couple days after that, oh damn it, it's not gonna work. All right, timing was everything. So this has also happened in 2003. And then for any of you who are sports fans, we know that Nerd Nite sports doesn't always mix. I'm a diehard Cleveland Browns fan. The Browns are finally going to win a playoff game for the first time in 10 years. Damn it. All right, so let's skip all this. Since this is not going to work, I'll just get to the good stuff here. 2 minutes? I don't know. All right, hold on. 2 minutes. Timing. It's a bitch. So I will make a joke about this. All right, so when Nerd Nite started way back in the day, obviously, it's predominantly science and history and liberal arts based, and we kind of gave, people would sort of ask, how do you define nerd? And we always used it sort of very liberally and very earnestly. We always kind of said, to be a nerd, you just have to be very passionate and knowledgeable about any particular subject, whether it's science, whether it's history, but also the example I always gave was actually sports. And I always kind of said, well, at the time, Tom Brady, everyone knows Tom Brady. You sort of think of a professional football player as a jock, which is, for inherently the sort of antithesis of a nerd. Jocks versus nerds, the classic battle. And I always kind of said that, well, if you ask Tom Brady what pass to throw on a 3rd and 8 when facing a cover 2 defense, on your own 48-yard line, he'll write off, oh, well, of course, in that situation, you run a Z-right 34X fly dog wing. And just obviously. And yet, no scientist or rocket scientist or nuclear physicist on the world would have any clue what he's talking about. And so in a way, I always say, well, Tom Brady's a giant nerd as well, because he has that real specific sort of nuanced knowledge that literally nobody on Earth knows. And I think that really kind of helped people sort of understand how we define it, is that we always use the term nerd as sort of a very broad kind of definition, where it's not just the subject matter that's almost irrelevant. It really is the sort of in-depth knowledge or the passion or the enthusiasm for something that's so niche that it just really becomes like part of your life. And I think we've been really able to carry that a lot through Nerd Nite here. So I'll just skip through this. We kind of know where we came from. And so right now these days, as the map which she was going to show. So when Nerd Nite started in 2003, it literally started out as just my friend Chris, who I knew from undergrad in the mid and late 90s. He was a regular at a bar in Boston, and he was sort of he was a barfly there. It was a sort of rockabilly bar. If any of you know Boston at all, when folks go to college there, whether it's BU or BC, Northeastern, Harvard, Cambridge, they all tend to live in the sort of the northern part of the city, either in Cambridge, Somerville, Allston, neighborhoods like that. And he was always sort of off the beaten path, and he lived in this southern Boston neighborhood called Jamaica Plain. And when he was doing his PhD, as Amy alluded to, he would go to Cameroon for 3 months a year and study this bird. And when he comes back from his trip every year, like any of you do, like when you go on for vacation for a week, whether you go to, I don't know, you go to San Antonio for the rodeo, or you go to Dallas to see Mark Cuban. I don't know what you do for vacation here. Don't you all go to see Dallas and Mark Cuban? But we obviously have a lot of people to catch up with, and so you can imagine that when you're gone for 3 months at a time, you've got a lot of people you haven't seen in a while. So everyone would kind of go to the bar and say, "Hey, Chris, how are the birds? Hey, Chris, how is Cameroon? Hey, Chris, what's the future of the species look like?" And basically, the bartender was sort of sick of overhearing hear him tell the same story over and over again. And they're like, "God damn it, Chris! Like, we're sick of hearing you talk about these stupid birds. Can you kind of get this over in one fell swoop?" Bird pun. And he's like, "Well, Tuesday nights we've got the lesbian party Dyke Night here. We could do a party here called Nerd Nights, and it would be weird. We'd be talking about science at a bar." And it sort of took off. And what was kind of fun about it was that once I brought it to New York a couple years later, and this was never supposed to happen literally more than one time. And the fact that it sort of kind of caught on, when it went on for Boston for a couple of years, I brought it to New York, and then later on, friends from New York who moved to Austin started it. And now we do this in about 150 cities worldwide every month. And it's really the sort of surprising, nice, sort of happy accident. Much to the chagrin of, I think, people in the tech industry today, or Gen Z, who are, always have to make $1 billion off of anything and sort of go into endeavors with intentions. This never intended to, again, happen more than once. And so I think it's been a very sort of flattering, really happy accident, that the fact that, like, I can be here 21 years later speaking to all of you, when this literally wasn't supposed to happen. And so I really want to kind of thank all of you for your continued support and enthusiasm for taking on this weird endeavor that we just sort of do out of the goodness of our hearts. All the folks here who run Nerd Nite Austin, all the people who run Nerd Nite Austin in the past, all the people who run Nerd Nites around the world, this is not their careers. It's largely done on a volunteer basis. It's just something to keep our lives a little bit more fun, a little bit more silly. Sillier or more silly? Sillier? Sillier, yeah. And it's just something that kind of we do for enjoyment. And so kind of, I think the conclusion of this is that, over the years, I spend 40 to 60 hours a week managing all the Nerd Nites around the world, and I get paid ones of dollars a year for it. But I've been doing this for this long because I just fucking love it. And we've had a couple of weird opportunities come over the years, from like documentaries and weird TV things. They just never made sense because they felt sort of gross and dirty and slimy. And we always just want to kind of keep this like a pure dorky thing to entertain ourselves. And so a couple of years ago, we got approached by a publisher, and they kind of said, "Hey, have you ever considered doing a book?" And I'm like, "Well, we've considered everything, but we just haven't acted on it because just nothing feels right." And kind of long story short was that we had a bunch of talks with the publisher, and things sort of felt right for the first time. And what we wanted to do was start to showcase a little bit about what we do here at Nerd Nites. Because we are inherently lazy and we put some effort into this, but not as much as we should. I've calculated over the years we've had between 17 and 22,000 presentations across the globe. If you've gone to our YouTube channel, which I know for a fact that you have not, we have exactly, I think now 43 videos there out of 17 to 22,000 presentations. We don't record them because they don't look right. We like to capture the sort of, we feel they don't capture the in-person spirit of them nearly as well as they should. And so because of that, like we've obviously done a just absolutely horrendous job of sharing all the amazing content that we've had around the world. There's the phrase "content is king." I guess we're the only ones who that has definitely fallen on deaf ears because we don't want to share it with anyone unless they're in person. So the book that we've done, it's a collection of 71 of our favorite presentations from around the globe in STEM-centric topics over the last 21 years, we've had a lot to choose from, so we're really, really proud of it because we think it really is kind of putting our best foot forward. Obviously, it's hard to sometimes take an in-person performance and translate it to the written word. Some of the jokes don't always work, or the transitions, the visuals, but we think we did a pretty good job of getting it here. I think we're generally pretty modest, so I think if I say I think we did a good job, I think we did a good job. But I'll let you be the judge of that. And so the point is that this is all really a really wonderful, again, sort of happy accident. We've never had any grand intentions. We think that by murdering a lot of trees to make books is probably the best intention that we have. Screw you, trees! What did you ever do for us? So we've got the books for sale out front. Lewis here. Lewis, stand up for a second. I'm going to embarrass you. Lewis was alluded to. Lewis was one of the original bosses. It's Lewis. Lewis was one of the original bosses of Nerd Nite Austin back in 2009. The short story, and I would say joke, but it's a true story. Lewis kind of came into the fold. An old friend of mine, JC, who I think will be here a little bit later, from New York. He had moved here in 2008. He was actually the first presenter at Nerd Nite New York in 2006. He brought it here along with another friend of ours. And during one of the first Nerd Nights in Austin, Lewis was presenting on stage about sharks. He was so drunk while talking about sharks, he fell off of the stage, and they immediately invited him to become a co-boss of Nerd Nite Austin because it made perfect sense. Lewis became a father for the first time 3 weeks ago. He is absolutely delirious on having no sleep, but he is one of the 71 contributors to the book. He wrote about all the value that algae brings to our world. So the chapter is called Algae Apocalypse. And so he's in the book. He'll be here for a little bit longer to sign. I will be here to sign. I've never plugged anything, but I will say, buy our book. That's why we're here. So buy a book. It's good for you. If you don't read it, it makes for, great poster, great doorstop if you have very light doors. Good placemats no matter what you're eating. Good paperweights. I don't think people really have paperweights anymore, but if you want to bring paperweights back into style, maybe it's as a retro vintage thing, can make for a great paperweight. Makes for a terrible frisbee, a bad pet, and bad food, although it's good in fiber. So please buy our book. We're very happy that it's here. Also, as we said, there's one more. There's one more contribution from Nerd Nite Austin folks as well. Catch up. Anyways, so buy our book. Thank you for coming. Apologize for the AV, but it's really, really nice to be here again. This was never intended to happen. We're very happy that it did. I don't know what the future holds, but please enjoy the book. We think it's good fun, and thank you for coming. Enjoy the presentations tonight. It's really nice to be here. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. I have been advised to stall for 3 minutes, so what's up? How's it going? Normally, when people give Nerd Nite talks, Matt, they take some questions. And I don't know if we want to do that now or not. I don't know if we can do that for like 3 minutes or so. I don't know if anybody has any Nerd Nite questions. Oh, I see one at the bar. All right.
All right. Yes. All right. The question was: is there an audio book, an audio version of the book? Yes. So there is an audio book of it. It's available wherever you find your favorite audio books. I will allow me to share an anecdote of this. So, being a part of Nerd Nite for 20 years, I have this weird inferiority complex because I have an MFA in creative writing, nonfiction creative writing. I'm not a scientist. I feel vastly inferior to pretty much anyone who's ever been on the stage. And so as a result, work smarter, not harder. I and Chris, we edited the book. We got everyone to do. I sort of project managed the whole thing. I do not have any contributions in the book. However, I did have to write the an introduction for the whole book, and then the 71 presentations are divided into 11 different chapters. Bodily fluids, doing it, very important things like that to make sure that everything is grouped properly. My late mother was an English teacher her whole life. She was very proper when it came to the English language. She hated toilet humor. So Nerd Nite wasn't always her favorite thing sometimes. And so the introduction I wrote for the bodily fluids chapter, actually, Lewis, give me your book. I will do a small reading, and I will tell you about how absolutely mortified I am of this. All right, so if I have any of your respect, it's going to be gone in the next minute. So I apologize in advance. Maybe I don't have it, so it's a win-win situation for everyone. All right, so here we go. This is the it's 300 words. This is the introduction. This is what's going to introduce 7 different contributions from folks around the world. Bodily fluids. What do you say to someone having difficulty peeing? You're in trouble. What do you call an accountant taking a pee? A math whiz. What kind of pirate pees on you? Yar Kelly. Mucus pun. Right. Yep. Mucus puns don't even go there. What's brown and sits in a courtroom? Jury duty. That's gonna. I'm just gonna. Donating blood. It's a positive thing. When you're walking down the street and you feel something neat, diarrhea, diarrhea. When you're walking down the hall and you feel something fall, diarrhea, diarrhea. So that goes on for a while. I had to record this and do 4 different takes of this in the recording studio. I only had to do 2 takes of everything else, and I'm mostly sure that I had to do 4 takes of it because I kept my mother was 100% looking down and just rolling her eyes at me so hard. And the greatest sense of disappointment she's ever had of her son. So if you listen to the audio version of this, you get to hear me say the word diarrhea 12 times and make the sound 6 times. So you really want to buy the audio book just for that. I will say I actually someone made me read that whole thing in Denver over on Saturday, and I'm kind of doing now, I literally couldn't actually look at the audience for 5 minutes afterwards because I'm so ashamed. So I'm not avoiding eye contact right now because I don't like you. It's because I'm really fucking embarrassed. So there you go. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to hear that. Go ahead. Lewis, you can get your book back. Yeah.
Which of the 71 talks was most surprising to you?
Yes. Tradition must be upheld. Excuse me. I'll be right there. All right. Here we go.
Streamers, it's coming back to you.
So, which of the 71 sessions in the book was most surprising to you?
So in terms of most surprising, I love that. That's a nice question. I think it's the very opening one. So the first one is written by a science writer who was a medic in Kuwait, Iraq, and Afghanistan from 2003 to 2005. We saw a picture in the beginning of Colin Powell lying his face off to the UN. As a result of that, he was called to serve. It's the opening one in the book, and it is a section about camel spiders. When he was on his way there, he had heard of the spider that was said to be 1.5 to 2.5 feet long, could run 40 miles an hour, and could kill anything, any mammal of any size. And so it turns out, I will slightly spoil it, but it's very well written, that the camel spider is only about 3 inches tall, It does not kill humans, and he was very sadly underwhelmed when he saw it for the first time during his deployment. I think what was surprising about it was that there was the illustration that came along with it. So the fun part of the process of writing this book was that we had to hire an illustrator who had made an illustration to accompany all 71 different contributions. And it was a really fun process. She had a science background. She was a little bit younger, and so it was really kind of fun seeing her visual interpretation of what was written on the page. And so the image of it's lovely. It's a soldier, and he's got his fatigues on and his big combat boots, and there's a spider that comes up to his thigh. And then there's little asterisks written next to the illustration. It says, "Not even drawn remotely close to scale," which I thought was appropriate. And so I think it was a pleasant surprise to see how and then that was also the first illustration that she did of the 71. And so I think it was a pleasant surprise to see how someone else's brain interprets things versus mine versus someone else's. I think it's always interesting. I had a very specific image in my mind of what the presentation looked like, how I would illustrate it if I had any art talent whatsoever. And so I think it was really kind of fun and exciting, and just generally interesting to see how her brain was working compared to others and see how people's creative minds work. Brains, they're all different. Who knew? Great.
I'm so glad you got that question so you didn't have to end on diarrhea noises.
This
is good.
He saved my life. My mother is still just she's so
unsung
sad.
hero in a white hat over there for real.
Yeah. I think sung hero.
Yeah, fair. So does anybody have a wrap-up question? Any nerd history, any other book questions?
No.
That you want to ask in front of people? I understand.
That's fine.
If you're a little shy tonight. So once again, we want to thank Matt for coming and for bringing the book.
Hey.
So good. I'm really excited about this.
Keep coming. Buy the book, buy the book, buy the book, buy the book.
Yep.
If not, don't, but buy the book.
Yep.